Hello and welcome to cEDH Portuguese League. Today we bring you a gameplay from the second round of our last tournament Quest for the Cradle. Before we start, a shout out to our patrons for helping us bring you more content and better tournaments. If you want to help us grow even more, you can become our patron by clicking the link in the description below and leaving a like and subscribe. If you want to participate or know more about our future events, follow us on our social media. Now to the game. Today we have Jaime playing Tasigur the Golden Fang. This is a control deck filled with interaction to slow down its opponents until it's safe enough to land a win con at the table. Mario and Danilo are both playing Ikra Kraum. Despite their decks being a bit different, they're both a Turbolist, which takes advantage of cheap rituals and its commander Ikra to gain some life in the process to dump into the ad nauseam. And finally, we have João piloting Winota, a snowball stacks deck that seeks to play non-human creatures before landing its commander to cheat a lot more into play at an alarming rate, forcing its opponents to be aware at all time. Jaime mulliganed once and kept a starting hand with a City of Brass, a waterlogged grove, and a Cephalid Coliseum for lands, a Carpet of Flowers as an early ramp, an Ocean Thief to prevent the excessive draw of its opponents, a Vampiric Tutor to find out a combo piece or some interaction, and a Noxious Revival. Mario also mulliganed once and kept a hand with a Misty Rainforest, a Verdant Catacombs and a Gemstone Caverns for lands, a Rhystic Study for card advantage, an ad nauseam and a Veil of Summer to protect it, and a Metamorphose. Danilo kept his first hand with a Scalding Tarn and a Polluted Delta for lands, a Jeweled Lodge and a Sol Ring for early ramp, a Wheel of Fortune, a Mnemonic Betrayal to get some value out of its opponents, and a Pact of Negation. João also kept his first hand with a Bloodstained Mire, a Scalding Tarn, a Marsh Floods and a Spectator's Seat for lands, a Rule of Law and a Deafening Silence to slow down its opponents, and a Signal Pest. João won the die roll and is starting first. Let the second round begin. Before João starts the game off, Mario has a pre-game action putting a Gemstone Cavern into play, exiling a Metamorphose. João draws and starts his turn playing a Marsh Flats, cracking it and taking 1 damage to fetch for a Taiga. He follows it with a Deafening Silence before passing. Jaime moves to his turn. He plays a City of Brass. He decides to ramp with a Carpet of Flowers and passes the turn. Mario, on his turn, simply plays a Misty Rainforest and ships the turn to Danilo. He draws. He plays a Polluted Delta. He sacrifices it and takes 1 damage, but in response Mario also takes 1 damage to fetch for an Underground Sea, and Danilo then fetches for a Volcanic Island, following it with a Sol Ring, and ends the turn since he can only play 1 non-creature spell per turn. João draws. He plays a Bloodstained Mire, he takes 1 damage to fetch for a Sacred Foundry, and plays a Mother of Runes, followed by a Signal Pest. They both resolve, and João passes the turn to Jaime. He moves to his turn, and at the beginning of his main phase, the Carpet of Flowers triggers, adding 1 black mana to his mana pool. He plays a Waterlogged Grove. He attempts to play a Toxic Deluge, paying 1 more life to clean the board. Everyone agrees, and the Toxic Deluge resolves. With that, Jaime ships the turn. Mario draws. He plays a Verdant Catacomb, and takes 1 damage to fetch for a Badlands. He plays a Rhystic Study and passes. Danilo goes to his turn, and on his main phase he plays a Scalding Tarn, taking 1 damage to fetch for an Underground Sea, following it with a Green Monolith, not paying for the Rhystic, and after it resolves, he quickly tries to play the Wheel of Fortune, but his opponents warn him right away about the Deafening Silence, so Danilo instead passes the turn. João on his main phase plays a Scalding Tarn. He takes 1 damage to fetch for a Mountain and plays a Sol Ring, paying for the Rhystic and passes. Jaime draws. At the beginning of his upkeep, he adds 2 black mana to his mana pool from the carpet and plays a Cephalid Coliseum. He takes a moment to decide on what to do and ends up playing an Ocean Thief, paying for the Rhystic after Danilo accidentally revealing that he has a Wheel of Fortune in his hand. With that, he ends the turn. Mario begins his turn by playing an Exotic Orchard. He follows it with a Mana Vault before ending his turn. Danilo draws. He plays a Misty Rainforest and takes 1 damage to fetch for a Bayou. Since he cannot play the Wheel of Fortune, he decides to keep on ramping and plays a Jeweled Lodge. He attempts to play his commander Ikra, but in response Mario plays an ad nauseam. Fortunately for Mario, no one answers and it resolves. He starts to reveal cards from the top of his library and ends up taking 28 damage. Ikra then resolves and Danilo ships a turn. João draws, and on his main phase he immediately plays a Rule of Law just in case Mario destroys a Deafening Silence. He doesn't pay for the Rhystic and passes, hoping that the other players have some interaction for Mario. On his end step, Mario forgot about an Ocean Thief and plays a Brainstorm. It resolves and Jaime resolves the Brainstorm instead of Mario. Jaime moves to his turn. On his main phase he plays a Command Tower, and Danilo warns him that he should attack Mario with an Ocean Thief. Jaime agrees, and he moves to combat, sending the Ocean Thief at Mario for 3 damage. On his second main phase, the Carpet triggers, and he adds 2 green mana to his mana pool, and with that mana he plays a Sylvan Library, not paying for the Rhystic. On Mario's upkeep, he takes 1 damage from the Manifold. Since João's board is keeping everyone from playing more than one spell, he switches tactics and plays his commander Ikra to try and gain some life to stay in game for a little longer. Mario discards down to 7 and passes. Danilo moves to his turn and rushes straight to combat, sending Ikra at Mario for 3 damage. He takes it and Danilo gains 7 life from Ikra's trigger. On his second main phase, Danilo plays his second commander Kraum, paying for the Ristic, and ships the turn to João. Still on Danilo's end step, Jaime takes 1 damage and tries to Cyclonic Rift Mario's Ikra, but he was prepared and played a deflecting swat, changing the target to Rule of Law. It resolves and João moves to his turn. He draws, he plays a mountain and follows it with the Rule of Law before ending the turn. On his end step, Jaime Wizard cycles a step through, getting a Spellseeker to his hand, followed by a Noxious Revival to return the Cyclonic Rift to the top of the deck. Jaime moves to his turn, and on his draw step the Sylvan Library triggers and he decides to take 4 damage to keep 1 extra card in hand. On his main phase, he plays a Cyclonic Rift on Mario's Ikra, but once again, he is prepared and uses a Veil of Summer to protect it. It resolves and Mario was able to save his Ikra for a second time. Jaime decides to play safe for now and passes, keeping mana open just in case. Mario goes to his turn. On his upkeep, he pays to untap the Mana Vault. He plays a Time Twister. When Mario played a Time Twister, the table warned him that what he was doing was possibly King's Making, due to the fact that Jaime still has his Notion Thief alive. A judge was called to the table and after some consideration, he decided that it's not an infraction, because the reason he did it was not to give Jaime the game, but to deflect all the attention from him. Tell us in the comments your opinion on this play. Do you think this play was considered King's Making? Would you do the same? Let's go back and see what happens. Danilo responds immediately with a Pact of Negation, not paying for the Ristic. Jaime tries to seize the opportunity and plays a counterspell on Danilo's Pact of Negation. Since everyone can only play 1 spell, the Time Twister resolves. Everyone shuffles their hand and their graveyard into their library, and due to Jaime's Notion Thief, he draws 28 cards. After this surprising turn of events, Mario moves to combat, sending Ikra at Jaime for 3 damage, gaining 7 life this way, and ships the turn. Danilo draws, and decides to move straight to combat, sending both his commander at Jaime for 7 damage, gaining 11 life this way, and on his second main phase he leaves mana open just for precaution. João goes to his turn, and on his main phase he plays a Winota before passing. Jaime moves to his turn, and at the beginning of his draw step, the Sylvan Library triggers and he doesn't take any damage from it. On his main phase, he adds 2 black mana to his mana pool from the carpet. He plays an Underground Sea and follows it with a Toxic Deluge, paying 7 life to wipe out the entire board. It resolves and Jaime moves to his end step, discarding down to 7. At the beginning of Mario's upkeep, he takes 1 damage from the Mana Vault, and on his main phase he immediately plays Kraum, to which Jaime responds with a delay, not paying for the Ristic. It resolves and Mario exiles Kraum with 3 suspend counters on it. He plays a Scalding Tarn and passes. Danilo, on his turn, also tries to play Kraum, but once again Jaime got it covered, countering it with a Force of Will, pitching a Fierce Guardianship. Neither of them paying for the Ristic. With that, Danilo passes the turn. João draws. On his main phase, he plays a Tranit's Magistrate, paying for the Ristic, to prevent even more his opponents from playing. It resolves and João ends the turn. Jaime, on his draw step, look at the top 3 cards and only keeps 1 again. On his main phase, he adds 2 mana from the carpet to play an Arcane Signet, paying for the Ristic, and after that, he passes. Mario moves to his turn. On his upkeep, he untaps the Mana Vault and takes 1 suspend counter from Kraum. On his main phase, he decides not to play anything, saving mana for some interaction. Danilo, on his turn, plays a Praetor's Grasp targeting Mario, and everyone warns him about the Tranit. It resolves, and he fetches for a card, and exiles it face down, before passing the turn. João draws. On his main phase, he simply plays Winota, not paying for the Ristic, and moves to combat, sending Tranit Magistrate at Jaime for 1 damage. Before damage resolves, he activates the Waterlogged Grove to draw cards. He ends up taking the damage, and João ends the turn. At the beginning of Jaime's draw step, he decides to keep only 1 card on his hand. He takes a moment to think on what to do and decides to save mana and just pass. Mario, on his turn, also decides to play safe and doesn't play anything. Danilo moves to his turn. He plays a Scalding Tarn and cracks it, taking 1 damage to fetch for a Tropical Island, and also passes, keeping his lands untapped just in case. João draws and rushes to combat, sending Tranit at Jaime for 1 damage and Winota at Mario for 4 damage. It resolves and Jaime is killed this way. On his second main phase, João still plays a Throne of Amethyst before passing. On his end step, Mario takes 1 damage to fetch for a Blood Crypt tap, and he follows it with a Cyclonic Rift Overloaded. It resolves and he moves to his turn. On his upkeep he loses 1 life to the mana vault, and the last spend counter is removed from Kraum. No one respawns and Kraum enters the battlefield. He draws. On his main phase he plays a Wishclaw Talisman, and follows it with the Tassa's Oracle. João immediately answers it with a silence, but in response Mario activates the talisman to fetch for a card and immediately plays a demonic consultation, winning the game this way. GG. A lot of twists happened during this match, but Mario was able to end it as the winner of our second round. Congratulations! These are the standings after the second round of this tournament. Next week we'll have Jeff playing Lonish, Cryptozoologist, SplitSecond Slate playing Tasigur, the Golden Fang, Pedro playing Roda Timin, and Thiago playing Winota, so stay tuned for the next one. As always, if you like our content and would like to see more, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. You can always become a patron for early access to our videos and other rewards. Thank you very much, see you in the next one. We would like to thank the SplitSecond and the Monarch team for the partnership, and also Arena Dvir for providing us the place for our tournaments.